Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is, and welcome. My name is Marvin Mayfield. I am the lead statewide organizer at the Center for Community Alternatives and a member of the Clean Slate New York Steering Committee. Good morning, and welcome, and thank you for being with us. We're here this morning to put the proverbial nail in the coffin of perpetual punishment and win justice for the more than 2 million New Yorkers who have been economically sidelined, economically sidelined. New Yorkers with old conviction records who have completed their sentence continue to be punished, shackled, and perpetually excluded from our state's economy. Entire families and communities suffer from this perpetual punishment, being denied the most basic needs of housing, employment, and education. A friend of mine, you may have heard before, describes this as wearing paper handcuffs. So we're here today to raise our voices and demand that New Yorkers have a fair chance, not only to live or to survive, but to thrive. As a formerly incarcerated person myself, I declare today that all of us deserve the real opportunity to obtain employment and housing and just enjoy the simple dignity of providing and caring for our families. So now is the time for change. Last week, Governor Hochul called for the passage of the Clean Slate Act in her State of the State address. So now we have the support of the executive, the Senate, and the Assembly. Clean Slate is an economic justice issue. Clean Slate is a racial issue. Clean Slate is a housing justice issue. With Governor Hochul's support for the Clean Slate Act, there's no reason to wait. It's time to pass Clean Slate Act now. So today you will hear from legislative leaders, from labor and business leaders, from leaders in law enforcement, and from leaders of this campaign who have suffered themselves perpetual punishment of a conviction record. And in their own words, they will tell us why Clean Slate can't wait. So after our speakers, there will be a time for a Q&A about Clean Slate. And if you're a journalist or reporter with a question, please use the Q&A function and indicate which publication or outlet you will work for. So without any further ado, without any further input from me, let's get started. And I want to get started with one of our major supporters in this legislation, Deputy Senate Majority Leader Michael Gianaris. Senator Gianaris, are you there with us this morning?
I'm here, Marvin. Thank you so much. And always great to share space with you and everyone who's working on this. And kudos on this to my amazing colleague Zellner, who has led the charge in the Senate, and Catalina, Cruz, right here in Queens, who is doing the work in the Assembly. This should be a no-brainer. We got close a little while ago and just didn't get it done. I'm glad to see Governor Hochul has stepped in to say she's supportive of this, because that means this should not be that difficult to get done. I want to just say a word or two more broadly about the reforms to our criminal laws and people who oppose them, because we're dealing with it on a lot of issues right now, including on Clean Slate. Aside from being mean and inhumane, it's so stupid and counterproductive for people to oppose these reforms, because keeping people in the shadows, keeping people out of good work, keeping people from providing for their families is not making anybody safer. It's only making things worse by perpetuating the cycles that people are experiencing already. So the best thing we can do, certainly for the people who are suffering and who've already done their time and are back in society, but for everybody, is to help these people get back on their feet. Don't provide unnecessary obstacles to them finding employment and creating a stable life for themselves and their families. And that way, people stay out of trouble and our communities will be safer overall. So I don't understand the opposition to these kinds of things. That's why I fight so hard to get them done. But on Clean Slate especially, let's just do it. Let's do it quick, and let's move on to some of the other important issues that we're also facing. But I just wanted to pop in and thank all of you. Thanks as well to Henry Garrido, who's a great labor leader in our state, and so many of you who have joined us today. Thank you. Thanks, Marvin.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Thank you so much. Thank you for your tireless support. And we really appreciate you. And I agree with you. I don't know why anybody would why there's any opposition to this no nonsense this bill anyway. So thank you, Senator. And we're going to move on to our next speaker, who is Zaki Smith of the Fair Chance Project and director and steering committee member of the Clean Slate campaign. Zaki.
Hey, yeah, so good morning. I'm gonna be pretty brief this morning, but just more so being in the space of gratitude, right? And so I just want to say good morning, all as always. I'd like to extend my gratitude to my colleagues for their hard work and commitment to bettering the lives of the marginalized. I'd like to thank the courageous sponsors, Senator Myrie, and Assemblywoman Catalina Cruz, and all the co-sponsors for their bravery and standing on the right side of history. Today, I want to thank Governor Hochul for not ignoring the cracks in our society and sounding the alarm for everyone to take a look in the mirror, as she stated in her State of the State address. Thank you for not ignoring the harsh realities that 2.3 million New Yorkers face for having a criminal record. Thank you for making it clear in your State of the State that your administration will not return to the failed metrics of success of the 70s, 80s, and 90s that criminalize poverty, addiction, mental health, and communities of color. Thank you for acknowledging the need and commitment to pass clean slate legislation for millions of New Yorkers like myself, who have long served my time and paid our debt to society, but are still suffering a silent life sentence of perpetual punishment. Thank you for being an endless possibility, because that's what New York is made of, possibility. I close with your State of the State closing. So too will history look back at our time. How we are judged will be determined by what we do right here, right now. Let us seize this moment with great confidence and optimism and create a legacy that would endure for the ages, a new era of New York. We're looking forward to working with this administration to pass the clean slate legislation this session. Thank you so much for having me, all.
Thank you, Zaki, and thank you for your leadership and your input, your tireless dedication to getting this legislation passed. Thank you. It would not be done, or we would not be where we are without your dedicated input. Thank you. Now I want to move on to our next speaker, who is incredibly passionate, incredibly supportive, and one of the most powerful speakers I know of, the sponsor, the assembly sponsor of the Clean Slate Bill, Assembly Member Catalina Cruz. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Marvin. Good morning, everyone. Today is a good day. You know, I think the shock and actual relief that we all felt when a bill of this magnitude, and I'll get into why this bill is important, made it onto the State of the State. Today, I see it as a celebration of the steps forward and in the kind of historical change we're about to create for 2.3 million people and their families. This bill is important not just because it's going to help people have a real second chance, but because it's going to help us lift millions of people out of poverty. We're talking 2.3 million people and their families that for decades have had to live with eternal consequences of a crime they've already paid for. There's many people out there who would like to tell you that this is some sort of freebie, that this is some sort of bill that's going to allow people to get away with a crime that they've committed. That is the most insane thing I've ever heard, because if anything, this bill ensures that if you've done the crime, pay the time, and have come out and want to contribute to your community, to your society, you are able to do just that. Because how are you supposed to focus on improving the lives of your family, make sure you feed them, make sure you clothe them, make sure that they have a roof over their head, if you can't find a job, if you can find stable housing? And the reason why you can't do that is because our criminal injustice system has been built to perpetuate punishment eternally. Eternally. Get that word correct. Once you get out of jail, it's cute to think you've done your time and you can move forward. No, you can't. There are millions of people in the state and children of those people who can tell you their parents would love to have a better job every day, would love to have a job, and they can't. We just went through the holidays. We are still going through the pandemic. How many of those people we could have helped had this law been passed the last time around? But we are here and we are hopeful and we are eager to fight, because we're not going to allow the narrative to change. This is an anti-poverty bill. This is a bill that's going to help us save the lives of millions of New Yorkers. We're not going to allow the Twitter warriors to come against us and tell us what this is not. This is not anything else other than a bill to allow people to rebuild their lives. This is what they deserve, and this is frankly what they've earned. And so I'm here to say thank you to our friends in labor. Love to see that Henry is with us, our friends in the private sector. And I call them our friends because passing a bill like this is not easy. Not many people understand the human impact of a bill like this. They want to mix this in with criminal justice reform. They want to mix this in with politics. They want to mix this in with misinformation. And to have so many friends here standing with us to say, no, this bill is about a second chance. This bill is about rebuilding lives. This bill is about making sure New Yorkers, frankly, can eat and can sleep with a roof over their heads. It is as simple as that. And we're going to get it done this year. We have the governor saying that this is a priority for her. We have the private sector saying that this is a priority for them. We have our public sector unions, and even some of the unions who are not necessarily in the private sector. Everyone's saying it's time. It's time to end perpetual punishment, and we're going to get it done this year. And I'm proud to be able to do this with my partner Zellner and with so many of the folks, the affected folks. You don't believe that this can change a life? Ask the child of one of these folks. Take your time and ask them. Ask them how this would change your life so that they can have the opportunities that many of us have had. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing from everybody else today.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Thank you so much for all of the hard work, for your leadership, for your sponsorship in this. And was I right, folks? Was I right? Yeah, I love hearing her speak. She is so compelling, so articulate, and just so down to earth, and bringing this message about why this is so important. Thank you, Catalina Cruz. I adore speaking with you and adore working with you. You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marvin.
Anytime. Thank you. So I'm going to move on to our next speaker, who is the Executive Director of DC 37, Henry Garrido.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you.
Good morning, Henry.
Good morning. It's an honor for me to be here. I'm Henry Garrido. I'm the Executive Director of District Council 37, which is the largest municipal employee union in the city, representing 150,000 members and 60,000 retired members. So you may wonder why we're here in support of the Clean Slate movement. After all, our members have jobs, right? And they are, by the most part, employed and have access to the very same things that we're asking for 2.3 million New Yorkers to have. First and foremost, it's because it's the right thing to do. This is a human rights issue. And I believe to my core that if we as a union, as labor, are going to be the catalyst for progressive movement in this country and in this state, we need to stand up for what is right. This is the right thing to do, which is why we are in support of the Clean Slate legislation. Now, I will say this to you, a small story. Early on in my career, I had the responsibility of becoming what we in the union call a rep for Rikers Island. And in many instances, I was representing schools in Rikers where people were trying to give themselves a second chance by getting an education in Rikers Island. And many of them would approach me to say, hey, I'd love to have a union job, but I can't, and I won't be able to. These are people who, realize that they made a mistake and put themselves through, which is what this society and this world is supposed to be about. A land of opportunity where people can correct the mistakes, and then after doing so, be given an opportunity. So this is by far a human rights issue. So I have seen this so many times where people here who could qualify for a good paying job in the state of New York, a union job with benefits, with retirement security, do not have access to. Now, the fundamental principle of the state of New York is the principle of merit and fitness. And many of those jobs that I'm talking about are done through a civil service system that people could take an exam and be tested to see if they qualify based on their merit, based on their fitness, not based on the disqualifying. That, I believe, is fundamentally wrong. And we need to end this perpetual cycle, a perpetual punishment of people, because it's wrong and needs to be stopped. So we're encouraged to see that the governor pledged support under the State of the State address. We now need the Assembly and the Senate, our friends, to understand that this is not just a movement that affects a certain part of the population, but affects us all. That this is a movement that deals with the human rights condition of people who are kept in poverty, as Assemblywoman said, who are kept under subpar conditions, not because of the quality of their character, the content of the characters, as the king said, but because they got a disqualifier as a result of a much maligned law that needs to be removed. And so we stand here in full support. I will be encouraging other enablers to do the same, and we will be pushing hard on this legislative session to make this a reality. Clean slate now. Thank you very much, everybody. Proud to be here.
Thank you so much, Henry. Thank you. And that was really, really very informative, and everybody knows the details and the intricacies of what's involved. So on behalf of those, myself, who have been shackled by perpetual punishment, we thank you for your support. I'm going to move on to our next speaker now, who is the Executive Director for Public Policy and Corporate Responsibility at JP Morgan Chase, Nan Gibson. Good morning, Nan.
Good morning. Thank you, Marvin. Again, yes, my name is Nan Gibson, and I'm Executive Director at the JP Morgan Chase Policy Center. I want to thank you for inviting us to discuss the Clean Slate Act today, and also thank Leader Gianaris and Senator Myrie and Assembly Member Cruz for your leadership on this important issue. We also want to applaud Governor Hochul's endorsement of the legislation last week. JP Morgan Chase is proudly one of the largest employers and contributors to the economy of the state of New York. We are a fair chance employer, and we support the Clean Slate Act, which, as you all know, would implement automatic record expungement here in New York State. When 1 in 3 Americans has an arrest or conviction record, that obviously significantly impacts their ability to get a job or housing or an education. The petition-based expungement system is costly, complicated, and time-consuming, and it simply doesn't work for most New Yorkers. And therefore, very few people actually pursue such a complex process. So what this practically means is that even after fulfilling their justice system obligations, people with records often are blocked from fully participating in the economy and their community. The drag on the earning potential of these Americans are costs that are not only borne by individuals and their families and their communities, but these also have large economic consequences. Both for business and society. There was a recent Brennan Center report that showed that the average person with a conviction record misses out on roughly $100,000 in earnings over the course of their career. This issue disproportionately impacts people of color. 3/4 of New York's formerly imprisoned population is either Black or Latinx. But we believe that clean slate legislation can help change this picture. As we continue to recover from the pandemic, businesses are adapting to the economic conditions and resuming our search for skilled workers. By reducing barriers to employment for justice-involved individuals, we will be able to get more people back to work more quickly, simply stated. JP Morgan Chase is committed to giving people across the country a second chance. In 2020, the firm hired more than 2,100 people with criminal backgrounds. That year, it was roughly 10% of our new hires in the US. And that history had no bearing on the requirements of the job that they were seeking and that they were hired to do. And with a workforce of more than 30,000 in the state of New York, our firm is always in need of local talent to fill those open positions. I just want to point out, additionally, JP Morgan Chase has also joined with nearly 40 large companies, many based in New York, to launch the Second Chance Business Coalition, which is co-chaired by our chairman and CEO, Jamie Dimon. The coalition seeks to expand hiring and advancement practices for people with records within these large firms. When someone, I think it's been said here earlier, but just to put a fine point on it, when someone can't even get their foot in the door to compete for a job, it hurts businesses, communities, and limits economic opportunity broadly. The benefits, we think, of automatic expungement are clear, and they will help bolster the state's economy by fully tapping the talents of thousands of people who are currently unemployed or underemployed because of their past record. So we urge the New York State Legislature to swiftly pass the Clean Slate Act. And thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Nan. Thank you for helping to, helping all New Yorkers be able to compete. Thank you so much. And I would just encourage everyone to check out our chat. We have a lively conversation going on in the chat with some valuable information being put there related to Clean Slate. So thank you again, Nan, for your support. We really appreciate you. Thank you. And now I want to move on to our next speaker. For most of you, it doesn't need an introduction. He's just an incredibly dedicated person to our causes, not just on Clean Slate, but across the board. And I just wanted to introduce Senator Zellner, the lead sponsor in the Senate for the Clean Slate bill.
Thank you, Marvin, and really a huge thanks to the entire Clean Slate Coalition. It is rare that you can get JP Morgan, that you can get our largest municipal union, that you can get faith leaders from all across the spectrum, that you can get organizations from downstate and upstate and western state and central state, all together unified in saying that Clean Slate cannot wait. It is just an incredibly powerful movement, and we would not have gotten as far as we have without all of you. So a big thank you to all of you, and particularly our impacted individuals who shared your stories. I get emails and calls to this office about Clean Slate all the time. Random people who are not involved in this movement, but maybe saw an article, maybe saw a tweet, who say, I need this to happen because here is my story. And that's exactly who we're fighting for. Speaking of the chat, Marvin, I don't want to let this go unaddressed because there's someone in the chat right now who has not identified themselves, right? At least we put our names to our comments. Someone who has not identified themselves, who is peddling misinformation and lies about the bill. And this is what we're up against. Any changes to our system, those who want to keep the status quo, they only traffic in misinformation. It is never in good faith. And we are up against that very same opponent all throughout our system. But let me say this, not just to this person that is commenting, but to everyone that is opposed to this. We will not lose. We refuse to lose. And the loss that we took last year and not getting it done is only fuel the fire for us to get it done this year and to get it done better. Let me say that I was very disappointed, despondent, sad, any other adjective that you can use for not being in a good place when we didn't get this across the finish line last year. But my sadness is nothing in comparison to the individuals who were not able to get an apartment because of their conviction record. It is nothing in comparison to those who've applied for jobs in the last 8 months, but who were told, we cannot help you because of their conviction record. It pales in comparison to individuals who are trying to get higher education and they need financial aid, or they're trying to get some other type of assistance and they cannot do it because of a conviction record. This bill has real human impacts. And so we have an obligation both to bolster our economy, but also a moral imperative to get Clean Slate done. This is something that I am so proud to hear the governor prioritize. I, of course, am happy to have the support of our Deputy Majority Leader, Senator Gianaris, and of course, our champion in the Assembly, Assemblymember Cruz. We're gonna get this done. Losing is not an option. Failure is not an option. Hope is a discipline, is what they say. Well, you have no more disciplined people than in this coalition that we have. We will be relentless. We will not stop, and we will refuse to give up because Clean Slate can't wait. So let's get it done.
Thank you, Senator Myrie. Thank you so much. I just want to say that I am honored and so proud to be working with our sponsors in this this bill for a clean slate, Catalina, Cruz, and Zellner and Myrie, who exemplify the difference between a politician and a public servant. We appreciate your dedication so very much and your leadership on this. We're going to get it passed. We're going to get it done. So thank you, Senator. Thank you so much. And I'm still coming for those sneakers you have. Anyway. Unrelated story. Okay, I'm going to move on to our next speaker this morning. We're moving right along, and our next speaker is going to be Hudson Catskills Housing Coalition leader, Marquita Edwards. Hi, Marquita. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marquita Edwards. I am a community organizer, a leader in my community, and most of all, a mother who values the radical ideal of second chances. With that motherly spirit, the courage of my children that look at me to stand up for the voiceless, I embrace my work, which involves empowering my community members to stand up for justice. Well, here I am again, standing up for the voiceless, demanding justice. Everyone in New York deserves to be able to fully participate in society, and clean slate legislation will make that a reality for more than 2 million New Yorkers. Right now, people returning to their communities after completion of their sentence currently face a lifetime of civil consequences that keep them from meaningfully contributing to their families, community, and the state at large. We are at a moment of racial reckoning in our state and across the country. This bill is necessary to continue addressing the decades of over-policing, criminalization, and prosecution of Black and Brown communities. I would like to thank Governor Hochul for doing the right thing and signaling her commitment to the end of perpetual punishment of 2.3 million New Yorkers. Yet, I believe that this is only a result of the Assemblymember Catalina Cruz and Senator Myrie championing our hopes and dreams. Dreams that many of us here in New York are just beginning to believe are realities. and the dedicated team of brilliant individuals that are personally invested in bringing dignity and morale back to the community. Critically, we also make our community safer when we allow people to access stable housing and employment. However, we must not stop here. We must ensure that 2.3 million New Yorkers get a clean slate and not a watered down version that does nothing but send us on our way with that message that they fixed the problem once again. This is your opportunity to provide a second chance for the people that you proudly serve. The time to pass this legislation is now. I thank you for your consideration of this bill. The Clean Slate partners look forward to working with Governor Hochul and the New York State Legislature to make this important legislation a reality for New Yorkers. Thank you.
Thank you, Marquita. Thank you. Thank you so much. Such an honor to work beside you. And thank you for your powerful words today. And I also want to just give a quick shout out and thank you to those who you don't see today on the screen, who are not on the panel, the tireless workers who are of the steering committee and our supporters who have been working to get this legislation passed, to get it over the finish line. So just want to give them a little bit of knowledge and give them a little applause. So thank you for all of your hard work, including you, Marquita. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I want to move on to our next speaker, who is the former Deputy Chief of Police and Board Chair of the Law Enforcement Action Partnership, Mr. Wayne Harris. Good morning, Wayne.
Good morning, Marvin. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for inviting me today. It's good to see many of my friends. Good to see Senator Myrie again. And I'm gonna get my shirt. Zaki, I need a 2X, please. So listen, I once read that you can gauge how successful you are being or how much of an impact you are making by the amount of opposition that you face and by how many people are willing to shout out against what you are trying to say. And it's born out of fear. And that's real. But here's the reality, and here's why I'm here today. For the past couple of years, we've spoken about criminal justice reform, and we've heard people scream about defunding the police and abolishing the police and taking responsibility away from the police. The clean slate legislation that we're talking about is a part of criminal justice reform. It's a part of reforming New York State in the sense that this is not just happening today. We've heard an awful lot about the 2.3 million New Yorkers that are facing this situation, but the reality is the number is so much higher because there are families involved. Those 2.3 million people all have families. So that number jumps exponentially to 10 million New Yorkers that are impacted by the results of incarceration that these people have been facing for decades now. Here's the reality of this. The intergenerational nature of the being incarcerated and not being able to get gainful employment, not being able to get a mortgage, not being able to get back into school impacts us all. And if we're talking as a society about ways to make our community safer, if we're talking about a way to knock down the violence that is crushing us in the country. I'm from Rochester, New York. Rochester, New York, of 209,000 people, just had 81 homicides this past year. If we're talking about a way of correcting those numbers and correcting the issues that we're facing, then we have to start looking at the root causes of why we're there. Those root causes are poverty, lack of jobs, poor education, all of which contribute to individuals not only reoffending, but unfortunately being victimized out here in our communities. We can do better, and this clean slate legislation is going to be a part of us doing better. I'm thrilled that Governor Hochul put this in her State of the State address and is determined to push this across the finish line. That's a huge benefit for us because that means that while we're talking about criminal justice reform, as we're talking about safer communities, we can start including some of those people that have paid their debt. and are willing to get back into society and become productive members of society. I spent 30 years working in the criminal justice system in uniform on the streets. And I saw the effects, not only individually of the individuals that I was dealing with, but also of the families that, you know, were a part of those individuals, and how this system of oppression has kind of kept them in place and only given them an opportunity to actually, you know, reoffend and not enter society and become productive. And I put a quote into this a while ago. I basically said, when you have no hope of being able to participate in society, the only hope you have left is to survive. And oftentimes that survival means returning to crime. So if we're serious about fixing our quality of life, if we're serious about, you know, eradicating our violence numbers and eradicating our homeless numbers and eradicating our addiction numbers, we have to start looking at the root causes of these things. We can't just put it on, you know, policing anymore. We can't just say this is a criminal justice matter. It's not. This is a life matter. This is a matter of each and every one of us being neighbors, being a part of the same community, working together, and getting this done. I'm happy that we're here. I'm happy that I'm a part of this. When it was first proposed to me, I jumped at the opportunity, because after 30 years, I can tell you, this is how we make this change. We can't arrest our way out of it. We can't just, you know, slap lipstick on a pig and call it good. And, you know, pardon me for using a cliche like that, but, you know, Marquita put it correctly. We can't just sort of give lip service to this anymore and hope that we've gotten it done, because we can't. We have to make some serious choices. We have to prioritize where we want to be in this state. And if we want to be safe, if we want to be healthy, if we want to knock our numbers down, our numbers of poverty, our number of poor educations, our people that are jobless, if we want to knock those numbers down, then we got to start at the foundation. We got to do this right. And this legislation is a step towards doing it right. So I strongly encourage, from not only me, but from the Law Enforcement Action Partnership, we strongly encourage Governor Hochul and the Assembly and the state and the Senate of the state to push this across the finish line. Let's get this done, because I got news for you. I got a whole bunch of other stuff that we need to talk about. So once we get this done, I'll be reaching out to everybody else, because we got a whole lot more to do. So thank you for inviting me.
And thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Mr. Harris, so much. Thank you. And we're ready to roll up our sleeves and work right alongside you to address these issues. And I just want to thank you for expressing, you know, a very practical approach to our community safety through ending perpetual punishment. Thank you so much for your input. And I'm going to move on to our next speaker, who is a Legal Aid Society staff attorney, my friend and partner in this work, Emma Goodman. I'm sorry. Emma, Emma, are you there? I'm going to have to switch. I'm going to get back to you, because we have someone who has to leave. So that was, I'm going to get back to you. I apologize. We're going to move on to RGA Global Chief Marketing Officer, Ashish Prashad.
Hey, thanks for having me. And, you know, thank you to the senators, sponsors, advocates, supporters, but also thank you to everyone who is formerly incarcerated, who has to do this second job to help change society around us and see us for the people that we are. Look, I'm extremely lucky to be where I am. At the age of 17, I was arrested, charged, convicted for the crime of conspiracy to steal. And as a child, I was sentenced to a year in prison for theft. Today, I'm the Global Chief Marketing Officer at RGA. I've been the press secretary to leading politicians on both sides of the pond. You know, I own a home in New York City, but, you know, I'm still formerly incarcerated. And how did I turn my life around? How did I not suffer that perpetual punishment we're talking about today? Well, I'm blessed to have family members with means, but also a prospective employer who was willing to give me my first chance. You know, it's the year 2000. This is before criminal justice reform was a big deal in both the UK and the US. He actively removed potential obstacles from my path. And my good fortune, sadly, is incredibly rare. Yes, I'm the exception to the system, but I want that experience to become the rule. And that's why we need to pass the Clean Slate Act. Today in New York State, as many of the speakers have said already, the conviction record produces wide-ranging, enduring collateral damage, permanently barring people from basic needs like employment and housing. They experience higher unemployment and poverty rates. estimates of a conviction can cause a loss of, I think a number was given 100,000 over a lifetime, like $500,000 over a lifetime. I've also heard from studies that have been done on this subject. The economic toll of the conviction is especially devastating to communities of color, who represent 80% of those who've received a conviction. And it's not just economically devastating for people and their families, but that loss of potential earnings has larger economic consequences for our society. By limiting access to opportunity, a person cannot get their foot in the door to compete for a job. It hurts communities and businesses, and we are proactively taking a knife to our own economy. There are tens of thousands of people who have the potential to move our economy forward, from starting their own business to discovering cures for deadly illnesses. Hey, we're in a pandemic. There are people who've got the intelligence to do that work from all walks of life. Designing cleaner and greener cities. We're wasting all of that potential. So even though people have been released and are said to be free, they're not. Right now, they're over-supervised, pushed out of employment, housing, and school, and often harassed back into incarceration. That's why we must create an environment where more people can tell a story like mine, because it simply can't rely on an individual like I have to do the right thing. We must remember that all formerly incarcerated people are not a separate population. They are members of our society. They are our brothers, sisters, mothers and fathers, friends, neighbors, and should frankly be treated as such. And New York State has an opportunity to, yes, pass a law that will automatically expunge or seal a conviction record. It is, a justice reform bill, but it also, New York State has the opportunity to pass the law that is an anti-poverty bill, it's a jobs bill, it's a public safety bill. And New York State has the opportunity to give more than 2 million of its own residents a moment to reset and move on with their own lives. Right now, our system punishes people unfairly, and millions of New Yorkers are needlessly unemployed, underemployed, homeless, without permanent safe housing, just because of a conviction record. The one thing the pandemic has shown us is that we could all, frankly, use a clean slate. How many people have we lost? How much damage has it done to our society and our economy? Because no one should have to experience a lifetime of perpetual punishment in or out of prison. And I'm pleased that Governor Hochul recognizes how crucial clean slate is to improving our economy. We've seen ban the box. We've seen second chance hiring schemes. My own organization hires a formerly incarcerated C-suite member, but also we hire formerly incarcerated people across the board. But this is a common sense step that will make all New York, a common sense step that will make New York's communities stronger. And I urge New York State to pass this bill immediately. Thank you for your time, everyone. I appreciate all the work you're doing to make this happen.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you so much for those compelling words. Thank you for sharing your personal history. And if I could just reiterate, I'm a formerly incarcerated person myself. And as I said earlier, we are here to declare, and I'm here to declare with you, Ashish, that we all deserve the real opportunity to obtain employment and housing and just enjoy the simple dignity of being able to provide for ourselves and care for our families. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you to all of our panelists today. And I am going to move on to, as I said, our last speaker for this morning, who is my friend and colleague in this work, Emma Goodman. Hi, Emma.
Hi, Marvin. Thank you so much to all the speakers that are here to support us. Really an honor to be on the panel with all of you. I have worked with thousands of people over the course of my career that are facing barriers because of their old conviction records. They are denied employment, licensure, housing, life insurance, loans, and more. I have seen how these barriers hurt families and communities. And I have seen how clearly our current system is not working. But what I have also seen is what sealing can do for someone. I have seen what it can do for families. I have seen how people can thrive if they are just given the opportunity. And I believe with all of my heart that what New Yorkers need is clean slate. In the last month, I have heard from more than a dozen former clients who are doing incredible things with their lives since their records were sealed. One just got a promotion. One moved to a better school district and their kid is on track to get into college. One is making enough money to be able to do volunteer work on the side. One is fitting people with prosthetic limbs. They are incredible, and I am inspired by what they've overcome. But I have also heard from so many people that continue to struggle because their records aren't sealed. They are facing homelessness, being abused by their employers, and struggling to support their families, all because they have old records that are holding them back. They are doing everything they can to move forward with their lives, but the system is stacked against them. Why? Who does it benefit to prevent people from supporting themselves and their families? Clean Slate will end this cycle, this perpetual punishment. It will strengthen our economy, it will lift people out of poverty, and it will make our communities safer. It is, simply put, common sense. And I urge the governor and the legislature to pass the Clean Slate Act this session. Thank you.
Yes, Emma. Yes. And I saw somebody did the same thing in the chat. Yes, yes. We urge the governor and legislature to pass this Clean Slate Act this session. We have the momentum, we have the push, we have the power, and we're going to get it done. So I want to thank all of our speakers today. I want to thank all of our panelists, for those of you who shared out of your personal stories and your histories, for those who are sharing your expertise, your passion, your drive, and your commitment to getting this done. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And I just cannot overemphasize how important this is to the 2.3 million people who are facing barriers to the most basic of needs because of a conviction record and experiencing perpetual punishment. We're going to put that nail in the coffin this session, with the help of our sponsors, with the help of our supporters, with our activists, and our directly impacted people. Thank you. We're going to get it done. So we have a few minutes. We have a few minutes for a Q&A, and if you're a reporter with a question, please use the Q&A function and indicate which publication or outlet you work for, because of how busy everyone is. A few of our speakers had to leave immediately after their presentations, but if you have a question for one of them, please indicate that in the chat and we'll do our best to get their response. So today we're also focusing on questions specifically from reporters. If you're a community member and have a question, please reach out to us directly. Some of the Clean Slate organizers will drop their contact info into the chat. So if there are any questions, and if there are none, that's fine. That means we covered all our bases, which is good. And all our speakers and presenters did their job. So I'll just wait just a few seconds to see if there are any questions that are put in. And okay, there are no questions. Great. So again, thank you to everyone. Thank you to all of my partners and workers and supporters and sponsors of this bill, the Clean Slate. We really appreciate you. And sure, gallery view if we can. And so thank you for joining us. Clean Slate has this overwhelming support of everyone today, and of labor businesses and our lawmakers, and with the support of the governor, the assembly, and the Senate. Now is the time to end perpetual punishment and get all of us back to work. Let's get Clean Slate passed now. Clean Slate, can't wait. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for being on this job. Thank you for being loyal to this cause. We appreciate you so much.